President Carpenter, if you would please turn your mic on.
Yes, I will. Thank you. The regular meeting of the Board of Directors of the Golden Rain Foundation of Laguna Woods, a California nonprofit mutual benefit corporation, this Tuesday, August 3rd, 2021, 9:30, Laguna Woods Boardroom. The meeting will now come to order. So, Director Gann, will you please lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
So do we have the media here? I want to acknowledge the media. And the next item of business would be the approval of the agenda. Are there any changes or deletions to the agenda? And I do believe that we want to change the committee appointments to unfinished business. It would be, right, it would be, basically, it would be 10B. We would move to 11B. Okay. Are there any other changes or corrections? So if there are no further changes or corrections, the amended agenda, if there are no objections, then the amended agenda is approved by unanimous consent. Thank you. So the next item on the agenda is the approval of the minutes of June 24th, 2021, agenda prep open meeting. Are there any additions or corrections or deletions? If there are no changes, are there any objections? So if there are no objections, the minutes of June 24th, 2021, agenda prep open is approved by unanimous consent. The next would be the approval of the minutes for July 6th, 2021, regular open meeting. Are there any additions, corrections, or deletions? Hearing none. There are no objections. Then the July 6, 2021 regular open meeting is approved by unanimous consent. Thank you. So the next item is report of the chair, and I have more announcements than comments, but I do want to say that September 11th, GRF nominations are open and closes September 21st, 2021, and the annual meeting is November 10th. And Sue Stevens has been selected to the Mutual 50 Board, and her vacancy will be filled during the general election. So I also want to announce that due to the COVID cases increasing, the August 9th meeting will be held virtually, and GRF will be discussing in closed session today as whether or not we will be meeting virtually during this COVID Delta variant increase in cases. We just want to make sure that everybody is safe. And that concludes my report of the chair. So Jeff, you're next.
Thank you, Madam President. Good morning, everybody. I have a couple of things. I'm going to just piggyback on the budget business plans. Obviously, Monday the 9th will be your televised version via the virtual of our budget. This is a culmination, as you know, of several meetings that we've had, previous budget preparations. And I want to thank the board again for, especially this year when we went through all of the departments and got your feedback with regards to that. So looking forward to having that next to last step. Once we conclude the Monday meeting, then it will be for your final adoption at your September 7th meeting. On to COVID, unfortunately. As you know, I just wanted to mention that we've seen an uptick statewide, nationwide, with regards to the Delta variant and COVID numbers. Yesterday's reported COVID numbers hit 1,996 in Orange County. As you know, a month ago, we were down in below 100 in cases. So we've seen a real big spike in the number of cases that are occurring out there. With regards to the Laguna Woods itself, we have in the last 3 weeks had an additional 10 cases that have been indicated to our the whole community of Laguna Woods, which we're part of. And luckily for us, and thank goodness for us, the death has stayed steady at only 53 since they've been recording. The additional good news is that we are over 85% for our zip code in vaccination rate, which is a very positive thing as we move forward in trying to address this variant. As you know, it's been indicated by medical reports that people that are vaccinated certainly have a much better chance of either not getting it, or if they get it, having severely less impact to them as far as their health impacts. So that's an important part to take into consideration for people. A lot of rumors in the last couple of weeks with regards to this issue, and one of the ones that I want to make sure everybody understands is that as far as the village goes, we do not have any anticipated plans to shut down anything. The only requirement that would facilitate us looking at closing down any of our facilities would be a mandate from the governor and the state office with regards to shutting down all indoor activities in the future. It is not anticipated. I don't anticipate the governor going in that direction. We will keep obviously tracking not only the governor's office, but Orange County Health. With regards to wearing masks, as a business operation type of thing, the requirement and process right now is that if you're vaccinated, you are not required to wear a mask in Orange County when you're indoors. If you're vaccinated, you should be wearing a mask indoors. But as we have stated before, we are not the mask police, and we are not going to be asking people when they walk in the door if you've been vaccinated or if you're not been vaccinated. It is really up to that individual to understand why people should wear a mask if they're not vaccinated, and why people that have been vaccinated don't need to. So it's on you to take responsibility for that. And we appreciate people recognizing that are wearing masks, and those that aren't wearing masks. Again, goes back to your responsibility for knowing whether you've been vaccinated or not. And we ask you to maintain the right protocol in the future, because you're protecting and you're impacting other people, and that's what's important here. The other thing I wanted to mention with regards to COVID that just make people aware of is that the hospitalizations and ICU numbers are way up. We were below 10 in the ICU numbers over 2 months ago. Now we're up to 68 hospital ICU beds being used and over 322 hospitalizations. So you can see the spike is still occurring. And this is Orange County. I want to make sure everybody understands that. Again, relative to our vaccination rate, relative to the village, and relative to our zip code, we're in much better shape than most people. So that's it for COVID. Don't think I need to want to make sure that everybody understands we're not closing. We're not closing down our facilities. But we are following Orange County Health Agency's standards with regards to how you deal with wearing masks and vaccinations. Last thing I wanted to mention, I've mentioned it before, I'm very pleased that as of yesterday, we had Bart Mejia started as our facility engineer. So that's really nice. And he was on board as of yesterday, and we had a chance to talk for a few minutes. And I think he's looking forward to working with us and all the activities that we have. And he was impressed with so many things that we have going on. So that's great. And Manuel Gomez, who is going to be the director of MNC, will start in another week. And so we're looking forward to having that team put together and get rolling on a number of the projects that we have. So I'm very pleased with that, and we'll keep you posted on any other personnel issues that we have. That's all I have, and I'll turn it over to Siobhan.
Thank you, Jeff. Honorable President, members of the board, I have a few announcements this morning. First off, with mosquito season underway and the Aedes mosquito actively in our area, the Orange County Vector Control District is asking residents to help increase awareness and take measures to reduce the mosquito population. Their motto is tip, toss, and take action. Tip out standing water weekly, toss unneeded containers, and take action and apply repellent to exposed skin while outdoors. The seal coating program for 2021 is underway throughout the village between now and August 27th. Seal coating protects and prolongs life expectancy of asphalt pavement by filling in surface damage and providing a protective layer to keep out damaging UV rays and water. This year's program encompasses more than 1.6 million square feet of coating, including roadways, cul-de-sacs, and GRF facilities. A map highlighting the dates and areas where the seal coating is occurring is on the village website. It's under News, News Home, and Protecting Village Asphalt. As a reminder, the Manor Alterations Division publishes a biweekly news bulletin. The intent of the news bulletin is to inform members, realtors, and contractors regarding important manor alterations issues. The news bulletin topics include overall news, rules, changes in effect or expected changes, and it contains a permit status log showing the status of permits that have been submitted for approval. And this is updated again every 2 weeks. It is on the village website under Residents, Manor Alterations, and Manor Alterations News Bulletins. Lastly, the Disaster Preparedness Task Force aims to inform and prepare residents for major disasters. The American Red Cross will present an earthquake and flood preparedness webinar on Thursday, August 10th at 10 a.m. That's next Thursday. To participate in the webinar, please RSVP to disasterprep@vmsinc.org to reserve your space and receive the Zoom link. And that concludes my updates this morning. Thank you.
Thank you. So the next item on the agenda is the open forum. We have 3 minutes per speaker. At this time, members only may address the Board of Directors regarding items not on the agenda and within the jurisdiction of the Boards of Directors. The board reserves the right to limit the amount of time for the open forum. Members can attend the meeting also by joining Zoom link or by calling 949-268-2020. So Grant, how many speakers do we have today?
We have 2 speakers in person, and then I believe we have some via email as well.
Okay, thank you. Okay, I'm going to leave it up to you to call them in order.
That sounds good. Our first speaker is Joseph Italiano.
Well, good morning, and I'm here to speak about the tennis courts app. We should be very proud of our tennis club and its traditions. We have players of all levels, from national champions to weekend recreational players. Once a year, we host a national 75 and over tournament, drawing players from around the world. For over 25 years, we used a court allocation system of open, free, and equal access to the tennis courts using a sign-up board. This system, unlike the courts app, accommodates the most players at our busiest times. Whether you're there every day, once a month, or once a year, everybody has the same right of access. COVID and its necessary restrictions ushered in a system of separating players, limiting court access, staggered start times, and underutilization of the tennis facility. Those restrictions have been lifted, but they're now unnecessary Courts app has remained. For the past 2 weeks, I sat at our chalet and talked with 105 players, 92 of which signed this petition to remove the Courts app from use at the tennis courts. This is an overwhelming and unequivocal statement that we do not want the Courts app. We do not, should not, want to give special privileges to anyone at the expense of others. And this app encourages that type of behavior. Whether you play every day, play once a year, let's return to our tradition of open and free, equal access for all players. After all, isn't it tradition that keeps us all from chaos? Thank you very much, and thank you for serving.
Thank you.
Next speaker is Suzanne Frank.
Good morning, Board. I'm here to support Mr. Italiano with the Courts app. I was president of the tennis club for 3 years, and I'm finding that it's total chaos down there now. We used to be able to come, sign on the whiteboard, first come, first serve. Now there are 4 courts on the reservation system, and there's a in-between time, sometimes 30 minutes, when these particular courts are not even being used because we are forced to play at 3 separate times, 7, 8:45, and 10:30. And you can't play any other time, which just doesn't make sense. If I wanted to go and play at 8 o'clock in the morning, I should be able to go down there, sign on to the whiteboard, and play at 8 with my group. So I'm just saying, I don't think it's a necessary item. It costs $250 a month for the tennis portion. We have a part-time employee down there who certainly can help arrange matches and sign people up. So I think it's double duty that we're working with here. So I just say, please rethink the Courts app for tennis. Thank you. Thanks for serving.
Thank you.
Parvez Riazi.
Good morning. I'd like to bring up an issue about discontinuation of some of the channels on the cable that we have. On May 20th, GRF Broadband discontinued a number of standard definition stations like CBS, NBC, Fox, KCET, KOC, quite a few of them. And I think their explanation was the word is going to high definition, which is true. It's becoming a lot more common. But for somebody who has older equipment, standard definition is the way to get those stations. And one of the solutions they offered was to get a cable box or get a DVR. The cable box means you get only one station at a time. The DVR is you get whatever you want. Unfortunately, the DVR is $19.25 a month in rental fees. And what happens is, in our case, we have 3 different locations in the house that we watch TV, which would mean that we have to pay for 3 DVRs. And when you add that up for 1 year, it's $693 extra that we would have to pay for what's advertised as free cable for Laguna Woods. As far as the problem, I raised this to Steve Parsons, and he referred me to someone else. Eventually, I did talk to David from GRF Broadband, and he explained that they had brought this up, and they got approval to go forward because it was convenient for them to do that. I wasn't in that meeting, but I venture to guess that they didn't go through all the ramifications of what was going on when they discontinued these stations. So really, all it takes is to look at the whole situation and restore what we had before May 20th, 2021. It's that simple. And my request is that you look at this. I have a list that I will submit of some of the stations that were discontinued. And I think the other thing that's important is, in the future, when there's a change like this, I think it would be reasonable for GRF broadband to let people know that, because as you well know, a lot of the residents here are older residents and they are not necessarily tech savvy, that they would know what's going on. They really need to be informed. So it's a very simple thing, and I'm making the request, and I will provide this list here. Thank you.
Thank you.
Maxine McIntosh.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Again, very happy to be here in this room, seeing all of you here. This is wonderful. I would like to speak today about our excellent magazine, The Village Breeze. There are always many wonderful and helpful articles in there. Some people put in inserts with the most frequently called numbers. You can just pull it out and you have it handy if you're using your phone. It's very helpful. There's one suggestion I have about a change I'm hoping you will make, and that's regarding referencing the laundry rooms. I know all of you know, but I don't think most of the residents here know that when Cortese was first building out our community here, he started with the Mutuals in United, and he never put any electrical outlets. Not one home in United has electrical outlets for a washing machine or a dryer. So maybe that's why he made the laundry rooms as big and roomy as they are. But he saw them as social centers. He even had donuts delivered. I don't know for how many months and years, but he had donuts delivered daily to those laundry rooms to attract the people in. He thought it'd be a good place for them to meet and get to know each other. And then for a number of years, I don't know when they first went in, probably at the beginning, but I know when we moved here in 1993, you could still see the wires in the walls from where there had been television sets. And that was to keep you entertained if you wanted to sit and wait for your clothes to finish in the dryer or visit with a neighbor. He really saw it as a social hub. And you know what? During the pandemic, I think you'd be surprised at how many hundreds and hundreds of people reestablished that feeling with those laundry rooms. They didn't want, some of them told me they didn't even want to get on the bus. They didn't drive. Why don't you use the bus? I really don't want to use the bus, And they would order things in, and they would go to the laundry room and take their books and their magazines and exchange them for ones they found there. Sometimes they'd take a set of glasses they didn't need anymore. Your articles are suggesting that nothing should be in there but the clothes that are being laundered. It's not a problem. If you had someone go around, like I enjoy doing, checking a lot of laundry rooms, you'd find it's not a problem. The isolated case where somebody takes perishable food and sets out Sunday's roast beef there to sit on the counter, somebody will throw it away. And I wish instead of saying don't use the laundry room for anything but your dirty clothes, that you would say what really isn't acceptable. Perishable food, worn out clothes. I just think that might be very helpful. A lot of people count on that laundry room for more than just doing the laundry. Thank you.
Thank you, Maxine.
I believe now we have email comments.
Yes, we do. Good morning to the board. The first email we have is from Barbara Monteiro. She lives at 5510 1F. Concerning Monday and Friday movies, when can we be expecting more movies? There's a repeat something over and over. I've had a lot of increases in the village shutdown and still increases. How about getting new movies Mondays and Fridays? That would be a really nice thing to do. The second comment, and Grant, you will probably need to time this one, is from R.C. Russell at 118Q. Once again, I am troubled to write to you, not a single letter, but 3, to make sure all 3 subjects are well understood. However, I'll just take a side note here. This is just about one comment. You have to work with the board, I understand, and regardless, you have to teach them when they are not experts though Laguna Woods Village hires such persons in each department. And again, I'm just going to take an aside. This was originally addressed to Jeff Parker, but was asked to be read at this meeting. For example, for this letter, Pool 1 has been closed since March due to total replacement of the blower. This is the only shaded pool, which means those with skin issues are unable to use the pools. Pool 1, as you know, won't be open until mid-August because of what? It's hot, it's summer. Prior to reopening with reservations to enter and exit the pool with no amenities, we were subjected to impossible waits to make reservations by phone. Not everyone has a computer or a smartphone to secure a 45-minute slot up to twice a week. As a swimmer, I gave up making reservations as 45 minutes didn't serve me per my doctor asking me to swim double time offered and 5 days a week. I went to friends as well as other places with far fewer restrictions, even with shower rooms remaining open for use. How many of the board members use these pools? Their probable bias is to keep our pools open, likely clouds their point of view. Yes, do share the letter with them as they appear more inept than expected. Since I have run boards for 30 years, I know the challenges to guide members to understand cheap is not efficient, even though I'm fiscally highly conservative. Effective is better. Why are those in charge of our pools' recommendations dismissed or worse yet, ignored? The point of this letter is to get Pool 1 fully restored with missing tiles, machinery working, shower rooms clean, doors hanging correctly, so that it will not be in need of being shut down for 6 to 8 weeks for repairs. Listen to those tending our pools to know the needed repairs and tend to them so we can have our pools open. When we can't use our pools, it means we're still paying our HOA fees. I want use of all our facilities, not partial use or a huge reduction in our HOA fees. My request is not different from other residents nor out of line. Please get the board behind you and experts to guide you to understand. Currently, either you or the board have faulty thinking regarding management. And those are the 2 emailed comments for today.
Thank you. Are there any more?
That concludes our comments.
Thank you. So,
I have a question.
all right.
I have a question. I might have missed the information that was given by Jeff. How many people, what is the percentage of our residents are not yet vaccinated? That is what my question is, if you know that.
In the, if you go on the state website, there is a area that you can find that you can put in the zip code that you live in, and it'll give you the percentage of vaccinated. So it's a zip code based. In our zip code, we're above 85% for people that are vaccinated.
And our zip code includes Laguna Woods Village. And what's the territory for our zip code? Does anybody know, or is that a fair question? Okay.
Yeah, it's the zip code 92637, which is all of us, plus
Right.
the surrounding, and I understood it to be about less than 900 people at the facilities. Is that what you know, Jeff?
As far as outside of
Yeah, 900 is a number I heard.
I don't have that number, but that's probably pretty close, because I know
It's
that
not-
we always consider ourselves 95% to 97% of the whole Laguna Woods
And the other
population.
thing I read, on the Orange County Health Department, there is an actual website that's been shared on other sites, and it shows that under 65, the percentage of vaccinated was 89% for our zip code, and over 65 was 87% for our zip code. That was as of yesterday. So that's information that if you want these, I can give the website to Grant, but it's an Orange County Health Department map that shares all this data, and it's updated every day.
Okay, thank you. So now the responses to the open forum speakers, okay? And so I'm going to ask if any of the board members, directors want to respond to any of the forum speakers. And, okay, John?
Yeah, first I'll comment on the individual who mentioned things about cable. There's a separate committee that's been developed to actively review these things, and I think your comments are well worth considering, and just know that you're being heard, and we're going to try to find some answers. So that's an ongoing discussion. I don't know how fast response you're going to get on these things, but there are legitimate issues that need to be worked on for sure, and many of us are involved with that. So I just thought you should know that, and hopefully we can find a way to keep you informed as things develop. That's the goal, okay? Because it's a much bigger issue than just what you brought up. You brought up a very important point within the bigger issue of a quality cable system for the right cost. That has to be developed. And also considering, I'm sorry? What is, anybody recall? Joan, do you recall what that committee is?
It's in Media and Communications, and it's the Broadband Group Committee.
Right, so come to the media and communication meetings, and you'll see the progress on that. So that's as far as I'll go with that. Joan may have more to add. With regard to the tennis comments, I'm the chair of the CAC. Those comments are important. They, I think, carry weight. I know Brian's here, and we've talked a little about this issue before today's meeting. If it's okay with the board, I'd like to have Brian come up and make a few comments, and then I might tail on with a couple things after that.
Okay, thank you.
Good morning, Madam President, Board Directors. I did have a meeting yesterday with the tennis club board in regards to this particular issue, and we discussed in length the different attributes of the program, its capabilities, and also the service level that it does provide to the community. I did receive quite a few emails from a lot of the tennis members that they're very much in favor of the court's application system. In addition to that, the tennis club itself also was very supportive. This is a pilot program. It's something new that we haven't introduced quite yet in the past years. So it is something that's kind of a work in progress, so to speak. And it is something that we're diligently working with the tennis club themselves to try to make some improvements and improve the efficiencies of this program. So we will continue to do that, but I do think it's a worthwhile program to have, as some people do not necessarily have that social aspect, and they like to know that they can get a court and that they have a reserved time and that they don't have to wait for a court and spend time doing that. So I think there's a dual function here. There are some social aspects where people want to come down and they just want to socialize and kind of wait around and then go out and play and then come back off the court and then go back out. So I do think accommodating both of those individuals or people's needs, I think is important, and that's something that we're working on right now.
And if you can stay up for a second, Brian, we got the other issue with the pool. I want to come back and get your comments on that, but let me add to the comments you made by saying that my first reaction was this is a CAC issue, and we would hope, and every CAC meeting, and I know I've spoken with at least one of you before, we beg you to bring these issues to CAC so we can get them on the agenda, discuss them, and try to find answers that work for everybody. But here you are presenting to the board. My first reaction was let's use our process, but actually I think you've done a good thing, because this issue of using technology to improve efficiencies is community-wide. And there's gigantic financial savings that will directly affect our assessments, what hits every one of our pocketbooks, with things just like the court system and how it might affect tennis. That doesn't mean we should be just throwing it at you and say, now you have to use it. That much I've talked to Brian about, and that's how I feel about it, and that's what we'll try to present at CAC to get some compromise and some phase in, what have you. But what I'd ask is that you at least understand it's a much bigger issue, a much bigger picture, and we have to find ways to reduce staff interaction on all these day-to-day concepts. You're talking about millions and millions of dollars throughout the community that we hope to find ways to effectively manage without disrupting your lifestyle and satisfaction with these activities. And it's not going to happen overnight, but at the same time, we would hope that you take time to understand why it's happening and hopefully find a way to cooperate, and we'll phase these things in a way that's as agreeable as it can be. But to stay where we are or go back where we were, that's certainly, the CAC wants to vote for that, and if this board wants to approve it, that was what will happen. But just know, and I mean, I've proven it over and over, it's going to directly affect assessments, dollar for dollar, and it's just getting bigger and bigger. So we need to work with all the activities to make sure people see that relationship, understand the impact of it, and hopefully work with Brian and Jeff and find answers that work as best they can for everybody. It's not easy, but nobody wants to spend every year additional significant dollars for all these different activities to be managed by human beings when there is technology that will help make it efficient. And that's where Jim comes in. He's running a technology committee. So you're affecting a lot of different board members with your comments, and I think that's great. But I just thought you should understand that's why we're trying to find ways to bring technology into the activities and recreation as well. Hopefully that helps a little bit of the color of why we're even pursuing these sort of things. That's up to Bunny, if you allow a comment from the resident. That's up to you.
No, I agree totally with what you're
Okay,
saying.
but he had a comment he
Yes.
wanted to
So-
reply.
so-
Why don't we take that to CAC? If you'll show up at the
Yeah.
CAC meetings, or we can talk directly, and we'll work on it, try to understand where you're coming from.
The date, please.
But right now, we have something scheduled for August 16th, but I think maybe we can talk before that. I have Suzanne's email, and so perhaps we can communicate directly and get with Brian and find some direction, rather than involve all our board yet. They're ultimately all involved. This is for you. Great, thank you. And that is my comments regarding that issue. Oh, and then before I let Brian go, did you want to make some comments about the pool and the availability and whatever the issues were there?
Yeah, no, absolutely. So as you know, the boiler has been ordered back in, basically May. And it's still in the process of being delivered here. We are anticipating it to be arriving here this probably early next week with an installation date, and we should be open, hopefully, if everything goes accordingly, mid-August. In regards to the comments that were made of just opening up the pool right now is about 70 degrees. It's almost as warm as the ocean. So people are not inclined to go swimming, especially our population group. They prefer warmer water, at least 83 up to about 88 for swimming purposes. So from a cost-effective point of view, it just doesn't make sense to really have a lifeguard be down there for a select view. We do have pools open. We actually have 4 pools open, and that's Pool 2, Pool 5, and then Pool 6, and Pool 4. So we do have plenty of pools available where people can swim in without any type of restrictions, without any limitations in regards to how long they can swim. So it's just a very unfortunate thing, but right now, unfortunately, in the supply chain of the world, everything is a lot slower. To give you an example, I ordered a new garage door back in April, and I still don't have it. So it's just something, unfortunately, it's industry-wide, it's nationwide. If you look at the cargo ships sitting off the shores of Long Beach, it's just right now a very, very slow process. We're doing everything we can to get things expedited and get the pool back up and running. We understand that there's certainly a demand for it and a need for it. So, but we are doing everything we can to get that going as quickly as we can.
Okay, thank you.
Eileen would like to be recognized. She texted me.
Oh, okay. I don't see you, but I recognize you. Eileen.
I'm here, and I apologize. I didn't want to be pushy. I wanted to answer a couple of comments that fall under broadband, if that's all right. First of all, the woman with concern about the movies, I'm going to use the same exact words Brian did, and that's supply chain. If you take a look at any of the entertainment news trades or either the Orange County Register or the LA Times, you'll see a lot of regular articles about the fact there just it's just very limited number of new releases and that are coming out right now. We're starting to recover from that, of course, but it's due to the pandemic. And the distributors who have the rights to offer us the type of movies that we like to run have a very, very limited inventory. And the staff has been making a very concerted effort to choose some of the kind of evergreen movies, some of the classics, until we see that start to pick up. The second one, and I'm sorry I didn't catch the gentleman's name who was having the issue with the channels. Our question is, we believe that someone has been out to the house to talk to him about his set-top box. And I just want to clarify, we have made no channel changes. So we will be happy to speak with him. I think there's a concern from the team that it's actually the set-top equipment that is being utilized, but broadband would never execute changes like that without notifying people. So I just wanted to rest everybody's mind there that we did not turn off any stations. It's probably an issue that is very just isolated to this situation, and I will come downstairs and give him my card and make sure we follow up. That's all.
Thank you. So are there any, would you like to speak? Okay, thank you,
Unless you have
Brian.
more questions.
And we don't usually have debates in the, so if you want to speak to, are you wanting to speak to Eileen? She's going to come down and give you a card so that you can speak to her personally about that. All right. Are there any other responses from the directors?
I just want to thank Maxine for coming, and I really enjoyed your story about the laundry rooms. And I'm not sure what committee that falls under, but I do appreciate what you said. And that's very true about socialization and things. The one thing I do want to say, though, is yes, we cannot put perishable foods in the laundry rooms. I heard about a large amount of butter left on the countertop. That was a disaster. So no perishables, please.
All right, thank you. So the next item is the consent calendar. All matters listed under the consent calendar are recommended for action by committee and will be enacted by the board by one motion. In the event an item is removed from the consent calendars by members of the board, such item shall be the subject of further discussion and action by the board. So the recommendation from the Finance Committee, consistent with its statutory obligations, a subcommittee of the board consisting of the treasurer and at least one other board member reviewed and approved preliminary Golden Rain Foundation financials for the month of June 2021. By this vote, ratify that such review be confirmed in this month's board member open session meeting minutes. Are there any objections? If there are no objections, the consent calendar is approved by unanimous consent. The next item of business is 11, unfinished business. Entertain a motion to introduce amended resolutions, 2022 fee increase for lockers, golf driving range, caterer, and storage units. And this is the 28-day review, so today we will be voting on it. And Joan, I know there are several resolutions there, so you just may want to read the corrections. Okay.
The first resolution is on locker fees. This is Resolution 90-21-XX, and I will read just the corrections. Whereas on October 15th, 2020, the Community Activities Committee directed staff to develop a comprehensive financial analysis of the Recreation and Special Events Department operating budget, including current chargeable service fees, resident user versus monthly manor assessment costs, and alternate revenue sources. And whereas at the April 15th, 2021 CAC meeting, staff presented the Recreation and Special Events Department financial analysis to facilitate the committee's discussion of fee sharing objectives, facility utilization, revenue, and operating expenses. The CAC identified locker fees that are low compared, cross out that first two, low compared to market comparisons. And whereas at the May 13th, 2021 CAC meeting, the committee recommended the following increases subject to Finance Committee affirmation and board approval. For the lockers and Clubhouse 1 billiard room, increase from $10 to $25 proposed fee. The PAC billiard room increased from $9 to $25. Clubhouse 4 outside lockers increased from $13 to $25. Clubhouse 4 inside jewelry lockers increased from $8 to $25, and the community center table tennis lockers from $11 to $25. And whereas at the June 23rd, 2021 Finance Committee meeting, the committee affirmed the CAC recommendation of the fee increases for facility lockers beginning January 1st, 2022. And now therefore be it resolved, this will be in our September meeting, that the board of directors of this corporation hereby approves of the fee increases for facility lockers beginning January 1st, 2022. And resolve further that this resolution shall be effective January 1st, 2022, and resolution 90-12-12 is hereby superseded and canceled, and fees updated according to this resolution. And it finishes in the normal way. So I move that we approve this resolution for discussion and postpone its actual voting for 28 days per Civil Code 4360. Second.
Did you do the storage areas too? You did all?
No, we do one at a time.
Okay, so read the next one.
We approve one at a time. The way they are, we approve one at a time.
Okay, let's do that then.
Okay, I'm sorry. So we need approval to go ahead and put this on the docket for 28 days, folks.
I'll second Joan's
Thank you.
motion.
I pressed the button.
Okay.
John
thank you.
seconded it. If there's no is there any discussion?
Right, is there any discussion?
Maggie?
These are only the lockers that are being increased, right?
That's for this group, yes.
Okay, because there are other lockers that are not being increased then, okay. And they're not listed.
They're not listed on this.
Okay,
right.
thanks.
I think the intent too, Maggie, was to make sure that everyone that is using storage pays for, there were a study basically done and showed that there were many people that were using storage that were not being charged, so we wanted to be able to capture everybody. Is there any other discussion? Okay.
Vote.
Okay, buddy, start over. Is, all those in favor of the approval of this resolution? Okay.
President Carpenter,
Yes?
now that we have iLegislate working, you can also vote via the tablet in front of you electronically.
It's when it's up. It's not up yet, Grant.
Yeah.
It's not on our screens. We don't have it. I don't.
Okay.
I vote yes.
I see Joan and
God, that's crazy.
Yes, if you want to vote yes or no, or abstain. Yeah, you did it.
Did it?
Yeah, see how there's a dark
Oh,
color on it?
okay.
okay.
All right, next one.
So we have all these people abstain and we have 2 yes. 7 yes?
Anybody who is having troubles, I can fill it in for them.
Okay, so we have 8 yes. So
9, 10 yes, 10 yes.
okay, so
There's
the
the screen.
resolution 2022 locker fees has been approved
For discussion.
for discussion. Okay, so the next item,
The next item, Resolution 90-21XX, is for golf fees pricing policy. And it's the same 3 paragraphs of the decision that's made, so I am going to skip down to the proposed golf driving range fees. So what has happened basically is the buckets of balls have been increased from a quarter bucket of balls is increased from $1 to $2, small bucket of balls from $2 to $4, and the large bucket of balls from $3 to $6. And this is also, whereas at the June 23rd, 2021 Finance Committee meeting, the committee affirmed the CAC recommendation of the fee increases for a golf driving range beginning January 1st, 2022. And I'm going to skip down to the very end. Therefore, be it resolved, this will be in September 2021, the Board of Directors of this corporation hereby approves the fee increases for golf driving range beginning January 1st, 2022. And it repeats and repeats. And I move that we accept this resolution for discussion purposes, postpone it 28 days to comply with Civil Code 4360. Need a
Thank you.
second. Second.
Are there a second? Okay. Are there any objections? So if there are no objections, this motion is approved.
Thank you.
That'll make it easier on me. All right, so then we have one more, I think. The catering fee.
All right. Oh, actually, you have two more.
Two more? Okay.
Catering fee. Again, the reason is to catch more revenue. So I'm going to simply skip to what is proposed in this motion, in this resolution. This is the Resolution 90-21XX, 2022 catering fee. The catering fee will be increased from $1 per plate to $2 per plate. And we'll be voting on it in September, and it will go into effect January 1st, 2022. I move that we accept this resolution for discussion purposes and postpone the vote for 28 days to comply with Civil Code 4360. Second.
Is there a second?
Debbie.
Okay, we have a second. Is there any discussion? Seeing no discussion, are there any objections? If there are no objections, the motion is passed. Thank you.
Thank you. One more.
So we have one more.
One more. Now, these are other storage area fees. This is Resolution 90-21XX, 2022 storage area fees. Okay. These particular storage areas were not charged for and will now be charged for. So the small areas, sorry. Okay. I will read the paragraph just above it. Whereas, in addition, staff was directed to identify and recommend rental fees for storage areas at clubhouses currently utilized by clubs without a fee. At the June 10th, 2021 CAC meeting, staff presented storage areas currently utilized by clubs without a fee. The CAC recommended the following new storage descriptions and fees, subject to affirmation by the Finance Committee and Board approval. And the storage areas, small, that's 12 inches by 24 inches by 20 inches and up, $25, the proposed fee. Medium, 30 inches by 24 by 30 inches and up, is $50. And the large, 5 feet by 5 feet and up, is $100. That's per year. Whereas the June 23rd, 2021 Finance Committee meeting, the committee affirmed the CAC recommendation of the fee increases for club storage areas beginning January 1st, 2022. And we will be voting on that in September. So I move that for discussion purposes, we accept this resolution and postpone the vote until for 28 days to comply with Civil Code 4360.
Do I have a second? Thank you.
Maggie. Okay.
Is there any discussion? No discussion. Are there any objections? So if there are no objections, the motion is approved. Thank you. So the next item on the agenda is the committee appointments. And I know that Joan and I were talking, and there are several changes. So do you want to go ahead, Joan, with your changes?
Give me a second.
Okay.
I have to go back to find that. All right. I had a couple of things. Okay. On the first page, under Community Activities Committee, Bunny Carpenter has been taken off as the alternate for GRF. Under Finance Committee, again, Mukapati has become the alternate for GRF. And under Maintenance and Construction Committee, Sue Stevens has been taken off entirely. And the Energy and Solutions Ad Hoc Committee has been dissolved. Oh, under Club Renovation Ad Hoc Committee, please add under advisors Kathy Garris. Garris. Okay. And under Media and Communications, oh, this is a correction. Deborah Dotson is the alternate for GRF. And under Broadband Ad Hoc Committee, again, a correction. Please cross out Dick Rader has been eliminated. Elsie Addington has been put in under as United rep. Okay. We still need, under Disaster Prep Task Force, we still need a second representative from GRF, but we know that. And under Laguna Woods traffic hearings, Sue Stevens has been eliminated. Those are all the corrections I had.
Okay. And I'd like to make a motion, you know, that we remove dissolve Customer Experience Subcommittee under the Strategic Planning Committee. And the reason that I want to do that is because the intent of the Strategic Planning Committee is basically to handle strategic planning as we go forward. And I felt that this Customer Experience Subcommittee was basically dealing with current problems. And so I wanted to make sure that we're not duplicating efforts and that the committee where the issues come up are actually handling it. And if it's a you know, communication issues, then Media and Communications would be handling it. If it's CAC, then CAC would be handling it. So I'm just asking, I'd like to make a motion that the Customer Experience Subcommittee be dissolved. So do I have a second? Okay. And
I seconded. Who seconded it?
Maggie. Okay. So is there any discussion? Okay, John.
So I'm the chair of the Strategic Planning Committee, and this motion just raises a number of issues that I'd like to figure out how we can get past. I don't know that our objectives are any different in the end. We want to try to find ways to improve the customer experience. I'm also the chair of the CAC committee, so it's not like this motion is eliminating my input from the process, so understand where I'm coming from on this. But I think it's critical and a little confusing, honestly. I'd like some clarification that we have, the Strategic Planning Committee was designed to determine big picture items that might help the community for, you know, years and decades to come. I don't know any other way to do that other than to look at what we're doing today, evaluate alternatives in an intelligent fashion, and then try to phase in what there's consensus among the boards and the committee to do. So whether you agree with that assessment or not, consider this. All the presidents, except for Bunny, who chose not to be, are on the Strategic Planning Committee. Jeff Parker was in those meetings. Other department heads are in those meetings. We have provisions in our charter that allow us to do this work. It specifically says to assess and evaluate current VMS operations. And Bunny reviewed those charter terminology and actually sent an email saying she thought it looked good. So something has changed, not quite sure what. It's clearly within the charter to do this kind of work. All the presidents, as I said, I said, please send your officers to this committee so we get the most committed board members to have input in this. They all approved the charter. They all attended the meetings when these subcommittees were established and felt they were appropriate and were going to be useful. They have all acknowledged favorable response to our first step in the customer experience process, which is nothing more than a pilot, a small little snapshot to start to get a feel for what might work long-term. We're not trying to change anything radically, nor are we trying to change current operations. Just trying to do an assessment of if we went a different direction on a very small scale, what would be the impact? And then you can start to say, how could that work scaled up in a broader level year over year? And then my final comment that is my major concern is, it seems to me that a committee chair is responsible for establishing subcommittees, not the president. And I have not made any motions or desires to disband this committee. So even if we are doing work that somehow falls outside of our charter, which it does not, this seems completely out of our protocol and out of our bylaws and standards, that somebody who's not directly on the committee, simply because she's president, can come in and say, I want to change your committee's structure without any documentation of why we should do so. Our staff clearly doesn't support it. They support exactly what we've presented up to date. The other board members that attended these meetings don't support it. They've voted unanimously on all these issues up to date. If I were provided a document that said, somehow your charter doesn't allow this, or somehow a president could step in and take out a subcommittee that a department, that a chair has established, then, that's a different discussion, but I haven't seen any of that. So, what I'd like to do is I don't know if we're amending the motion, but I'd like to vote to, or put a motion forward to table this issue so we can discuss it with our attorney, because we're messing with a lot of different people's opinions on this thing if we don't get it right. So that I would like to see this tabled for further discussion.
So the comment basically is what is in the strategic planning charter. And I think the strategic planning charter was basically, the intent was to solve and look at strategic planning, okay? But not customer service, not pilots, that are, for CAC. So it's a matter of interpretation. And yes, I did approve the charter with the intent that we were looking at strategic planning venue. So it's a matter of interpretation, and John has a different interpretation, I understand. But my main concern, and I have to repeat, I do know what my position is as a president, that I oversee the business of GRF. And it's my job to help keep everybody on track. And I am very, I like to keep things so that we are organized and that the people that are involved in certain areas are actually handling those areas. And I do not want to see communications working with strategic planning on the same subject that she would be working on with media and communications. So where is it? I mean, any person that is organized, within their committees and their board, we want to keep this in areas where it's supposed to be handled, and handled by the people that have the expertise in that particular area and have chosen to be on those committees to handle that. So customer service, I have a real issue with, because we're dealing with today's problems. Now, I understand that the resident service issue has already been handled, but to go further and to put any kind of issue that somebody has with the technology, with, today's issue, today's complaints, of, I don't like the way that technology works. It doesn't belong in strategic planning. And that's my view. And maybe someone else would have a different view. And as far as the legal, as the committee appointments are approved by the board. Mm-hmm. So at this point in time, if I'm saying that I want this dissolved, this board can either approve or disapprove what I'm asking. So I know I'm not out of line in any way. And so if there's any further discussion on this, if we have to approve the amendment, to table it,
There's no motion yet for a table.
Okay, all right, there's no motion to table it.
What did I thought I did make a motion to
Said
table
you'd
it.
like to, you didn't make it a motion.
Oh, I didn't know how to do that officially. I apologize. I would like to make a motion to table this issue.
Is there a second?
The second allows us to have conversation,
A second allows it to be done. You don't want to table it. John, you don't want to table it, because if you table it, it cannot be taken easily from the table and put into the discussion. So it's better to postpone it until X is done. You see what I'm saying?
I was wide open to having, I think it's a bit of a legal matter. I was wide open to moving it into closed meeting and discussing it as a legal matter to get clarity on how these things might be properly decided. So if that would be a better adjustment, I'm wide open
That's
to
a
it.
possibility. Let me ask you a question before we do it. What remains to be done by this committee as far as customer experience is concerned?
Well, I mean, this is the core issue, is to properly plan, you have to understand where you are today, which means clearly there's going to be an overlap between current operations and recommendations and testing and development of future programs. So what needs to be done is massive, meaning we've got phase one that we all felt was very low risk, very non-threatening to any existing operations, again, endorsed by our own CEO, to start the process. So after we got through the pilot, we would evaluate that. It was a 6-month pilot, and we'd all look at it and say, where's the next step? But we weren't trying, so it could be a lot.
Let me ask you another question along these same lines. Who takes the lead on doing the process?
Staff, of course.
So this committee, through the boards, appoints the staff to consider whatever you plan, is that correct?
We gave them the objectives, they developed a strategy with which to pursue those objectives, and then we all approved that so far.
So it was never approved in CAC,
No, that's correct, and that, and I
and
said
there
to-
was never any discussion as maybe some new ideas?
we just have a difference of opinion. I don't see it as a CAC issue at all. We're not trying to change current operations. We're trying to test what might work in the future rather than dive into it and say, this will surely work. Let's spend, like solar panels and things I could bring up all day long that we dive into and all of a sudden millions are wasted. We wanted to take a small snapshot, walk very slowly, see if this could work, and then present to ultimately our board through the strategic planning committee, hey, this looks like it may have potential to move forward as a bigger project. What do you guys think? That was the idea. This was phase one of perhaps a 10-phase project. It would have no impact day-to-day on operations. All which Brian's here. You're welcome to, we've talked about it. You're welcome to get his input.
But it does have input on day-to-day because you're asking people, giving them, trying to give them an incentive to start using technology. So it does have to do with day-to-day operations, and it has to do with day-to-day collection of data, and the updates and monitoring of all of it would be done with Brian
Right.
in CAC. So do you have a comment, Jim?
Go ahead.
Yes. I mean, it's not unusual in my experience for a brand-new committee, and I understand strategic planning is brand new to GRF. It's not unusual to have some preliminary discussions as to what constitutes strategic value. And so the question, I think, for me becomes, what is the strategic value of this very, very specific operational activity? What is the strategic value? And it goes along to what is the actual goal. Forget the charter for a minute, but what is the actual goal of the strategic planning committee? And I'm not sure that's been answered, because there are a lot of areas that are very specific that can be strategically laid out in terms of strategies and goals that don't involve day-to-day activities. And I think that's what, at least I expected out of the strategic planning committee, and not necessarily a specific solution to a specific area of the business. So I would think to reevaluate the strategic planning committee would be not necessarily an amendment to this, but certainly this puts it back into, let's look at the goal.
Okay, Maggie?
Yes. One of the members of the committee has declared himself the one to come to if you have any issues about customer experience. That means any issues, any double phone calls, anything like that. And so he has declared himself the one who should be contacted for all purposes. So that circumvents our call-in line, that circumvents our purpose of the committees. Landscape Committee, we want you to either call the service line or we want you to come to the committee or email the committee. We don't want you to go to this one person who says he is Lord of over all and will control over all and wants all complaints gone through him. If you have a problem with this, call me. If you have a problem with this, let me know. I will help you. I will do it for you. Is the way this committee has been misinterpreted. And so with that being a great disservice to the functioning of how we are currently working, I think that this committee needs to be readjusted.
Okay, John?
Would there be any problem, John, with reabsorbing the committee just back into strategic planning and not make them so specifically oriented? I know what you're trying to do, but the point is that maybe everybody on your strategic planning committee can be working on these same things. I mean, they see a problem with customer experience. Why can't the whole committee work on it instead of make it just an ad hoc committee? I realize there's a lot to it, but the point is that
I'm open-minded to that.
Might solve the problem, is all I'm saying.
Just for clarity, the Strategic Planning Committee determined as a group, consensus-wise, that we needed to do a proof of concept project. We needed to prove we could solve one problem before we thought we could put binders together of massive theories of how everything should run as an entire community. And Director Hopkins voted for that approach that he's now questioning. So again, I don't understand why things have changed in concept or philosophy. And to generalize and say that one director who happens to be in the Strategic Planning Committee has declared himself the king of customer service. I don't know who that might be. I have an idea. I don't know. That's not in the minutes. That never got discussed during a meeting. That certainly wasn't authorized or approved by anything in strategic planning and has nothing to do with strategic planning. And if it's the situation I think it is, you can assure yourself that will continue even if we abolish the entire Strategic Planning Committee, because that's just the nature of that individual. So these concepts seem, again, this is why it makes sense to go back and say, what is the call here? Who's supposed to be determining what is happening inside the Strategic Planning Committee? Is it the chair? If the president has a problem with what the chair is doing, then the president should work through the chair, which is her own directive. Always work through the committee chair. We've had no discussions about this. I simply got an email saying, I'm abolishing this. Here's why. And I said that's not consistent with our protocols. I believe strongly that the president would have major objections if another director did that to another committee. So it's basically goes to an issue of what are the powers of the president to get involved with committee decisions without involving the committee. And this has happened in multiple situations. I ran into it with finance, had to resign as treasurer for some of these issues where there was interference. I don't want to go there and start creating other problems.
John,
But the topic is...
Point of order. Point of order.
We're off topic.
Well, I want to take it to closed session for this very reason.
That's what I'm going to suggest, John.
For this very reason.
Right. I move that we take this discussion and solution, hopefully, to our closed session. This is not an appropriate venue. So there's a motion, second motion on the floor, which would supersede the canceling of this right now. You need a second.
What are we seconding, Joan?
You're seconding having further discussion in closed session on this.
Yes, I'm seconding that.
Debbie seconds it. All right.
Okay. All those approve? So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. All right. So the motion is to take the issue of customer experience subcommittee and take it to closed session. And it also has to do with, we will discuss it with Lori, because it also, the question comes up is to what is the authority of the president and what is the job? And that has been explained many times to you, John. So we will discuss it again. Thank you. All right.
We have a motion on the floor.
So the next item, okay.
We need to approve the list.
Approval? Approval for the, okay. So, but we had a second that would table it, so,
No, you can't
No,
table
no,
the
the
whole
committee
thing.
appointments.
Table that part.
okay. We're going to table that?
Committee appointments is the.
Committee
is the-
appointments is the subject right
Is the
now, folks.
subject.
And with the exception of Customer Experience Subcommittee, which we will discuss in closed session,
Okay,
I move that we approve the GRF committee appointments.
thank you. And you have a second? No further discussion?
Debbie.
Did you want, are you seconding or discussion?
Debbie
Oh,
seconded.
okay, thank you. So are there any objections? So if
I
there,
have a question. What is customer experience? Is that part of this?
That's part of strategic planning, Don,
Right.
yes.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
And we'll talk about it further in the closed session.
in closed session. Okay. If there are no objections, then it's approved by unanimous consent. So the next item, back to my paperwork here, is new business. And it's, do I hear a motion to approve the termination of premium channels 751 and 752 and price increase for Showtime? So is Eileen here? Because I would like for her to talk about what this motion is about.
Joni can do it.
Who?
I can.
Okay.
I'm here, but I think Joan can
Okay.
handle it, but I will stay on standby.
Okay.
Okay, stand by. Here's the background, first of all. These would be the whereases. 10 or less residents of Laguna Woods Village utilize pay-per-view channels 751 and 752. Providing these channels costs GRF $1,750 per month. Revenue from these two channels is approximately $750 per month. The result is that GRF loses $12,000 per year on these channels. In addition, these adult content channels appear with detailed content descriptions on the broadcast television channel guide. Also, whereas the cost to GRF to provide the Showtime channel to residents automatically increases 4% per year. However, the cost to users has not been increased in more than 5 years, and as a result, GRF is losing money each month on the 387 subscriptions to this channel. Therefore, the Media and Communications Committee discussed and voted to recommend that the monthly cost for Showtime be increased from $14.25 per month to $15.68 to cover their costs. On July 20th, 2021, the Media and Communications Committee unanimously recommended that the board approve both of these recommendations. And the MNCC recommended actions would result in halting monthly losses on cable network programming. And in the case of channels 751 and 752, GRF will no longer be providing these channels at a loss, resulting in savings of $1,000 per month. In the case of Showtime, GRF would be covering its costs and realizing a slight profit in providing the channel. It is important to note that residents can live stream Showtime via internet for between $8.99 and $10.99 per month. The Media and Communications Department will begin educating residents about lower cost streaming access through Showtime and other channels. Therefore, we recommend the approval of the termination of premium channels 751 and 752 and price increase for Showtime from $14.25 to $15.68, which is a 10% increase. I recommend we approve this recommendation. Need a second?
Okay, is there a second? All right, thank you.
Maggie?
Any discussion? John?
Do we have, I may have missed it, do we have information on the current usage of these 751 and 752
Yes,
channels?
I just went through it. There's
On,
No, he says $1,000 a month savings, but how many people?
2.
There's only 2 people using both stations?
Yes.
No, yeah, okay, that's correct.
Great. Okay, thank you very much.
It's actually 10 or less. It's low. And while there are more people on the Showtime channel, you can get it elsewhere. And it's actually more costly to keep doing it with us, but we aren't cutting it out. Okay. All right, ready to vote.
Is there any other discussion? Are there any objections? If there are no other objections, then the motion is passed. So at this time, I will ask the board, would you like a break before we continue with the committee meetings? But if you don't need a break, then we will continue with the committee. She says, take a break, 5 minutes. Okay, it's 10:51, so let's give ourselves 5 minutes and be back. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, President Carpenter.
Well, I just need to make sure, one moment, I just need to make sure that it's on Zoom as well. 1 second.
Is your mic on?
Yeah, it's on. I'm just waiting for Grant to put the chart up. Here he goes. You ready, Grant? Okay. All right, this is the GRF financial report as of June 30th, 2021. And through that reporting period, the total revenue was $21.5 million compared to expenses of $19.8 million. The result is a net revenue of $1,739,000. Slide 2, please. Okay. Of course, we also keep a close eye on the operating portion of our financial results. And the operating fund, without depreciation, shows a favorable variance of $870,000 through the reporting period. Slide 3. Now, this chart shows the same actuals from the income statement, but compared to budget. And GRF ended the period better than budget by $1,095,000. Slide 4. Okay. Now this slide shows the most significant variances by category, with the green bars representing favorable variances and the orange bars representing unfavorable variances. As you can see, the first bar, which is employee compensation, is favorable by $1,390,000. Now, this is primarily due to the open positions in security and information services. And of course, recruitment is in process. It's much more difficult in this environment. Also, certain janitorial and recreational positions remain unfilled while the clubhouses have been closed. There are fewer hours than budgeted in transportation due to the temporary consolidation of the commercial routes. Also, our trust facilities fees are favorable, and that's due to more manors sold. The year-to-date revenue generated from this is 13% higher than the anticipated revenue. The community had 456 resales versus a budget of 372, and also compared to 304 in 2020 of the same period. The community events expense, which is the next favorable variance, is up $168,000 due to facility closure during the pandemic. The budget assumed the facilities would be reopened in March. Now, looking at the orange or unfavorable, there's an unrealized loss of $385,000 in investments, unrealized investments, due to adverse conditions for the bond investments during the reporting period. Just as a word, we will be reviewing this in some detail in our next financial meeting, which I'm anticipating being an open board meeting as well as a finance meeting. Our plan today is to have our investment advisor actually at that meeting to go through in detail what our investments are. Now, the next unfavorable item is miscellaneous revenue, and and that's $270,000 negative due to less fees collected during facility closures. And the same is true with the next item, which is clubhouse rentals and event fees. Next chart, please. Now, slide 5 shows the revenue, other sources of revenue, such as fees and rentals to date. We have received just over $5.8 million, as shown in the pie chart. Broadband services and trust facilities make up over 77% of those fees. Next chart. Now, slide 6 shows expenses to date of $19.8 million, which include depreciation. The largest categories being compensation, depreciation, cable programming, insurance, professional fees, etc. Again, when you look at employee compensation, which actually is slightly down, there was a time when it was close to 60% at one time, so it's slightly down now. And that's due to the not being able to recruit employees during this period. Next chart, please. This chart shows the resale history from 2019 to 2021. Company-wide, community-wide sales totaling 456 units through June of 2021. Most of these transactions generate the $5,000 trust facilities fee. The average sale so far this year is almost $397,000 compared to $300,000 in 2020 and $296,000 in 2019. Next chart, please. This chart shows the reserve and contingency funds with their adjusted balances. Starting with the first column. These funds have a combined ending balance of $32 million. Included in this total are contributions received this year through assessments, trust facilities fees, and interest earnings. The second column shows the work in process of $5.8 million, reflecting the amounts paid for projects not yet complete. The third column represents the resulting adjusted fund balance of $26.3 million. Next slide, please. Starting with the first column on the left, the funds have a combined balance of 32.1 balance, and included in this total are contributions received this year through assessments, trust facilities fees, and earnings. The second column shows the work in process of $5.8 million. I'm sorry, I'm working from the wrong chart. That's slide number 9. Okay, let's rewind. Slide number 9. When we compare our adjusted fund balances to historical balances for the past 5 years, this next chart shows that GRF has averaged just over $26 million in reserve and contingency funds. As of 2021, as of this period, our balance is slightly higher than it has been over the last 5 years. Next chart, please. Now, this listing on this slide gives you an idea of where the reserve money is committed. Of the $13.5 million appropriated by the boards for various projects and equipment purchases, the remaining encumbrances against our reserve and contingency fund is $8.1 million. And that's primarily in renovation projects. I won't go down the list. And that concludes the Treasurer's report for GRF.
Okay, thank you. So the
Is-
next, are you done?
Well, I have a committee report.
Okay.
At the last GRF meeting, at the finance meeting, we covered several topics, one of which was our reserves and our investments. We also went through and approved for recommendation the CAC recommendations that were approved today. And the next meeting that we will have will be August 25th, 2021. And as I stated earlier, we anticipate having not just a GRF finance meeting, but basically an open board meeting at that time where we would like to discuss in some level of detail and let everyone know what we are invested in and get feedback on that. We will have our investment advisor there. We're still working on that. And that concludes my report.
And I would like to add to that, you're also going to be talking about the investment policy as far as the adjustments, the modifications.
Yes, yes. We will be talking about the investment policy at that point in time. We're still working on the wording. But what we did find, just to give you a preview, we found that the wording was not only inconsistent, but a little confusing in our own policy. So and the reality of it is that we were actually doing or performing what we had intended, but the investment policy could have been worded better.
Thank you.
I have a question.
Yes.
You have a question?
Jim, go back to the GRF financial report, adjusted fund balances.
Mm-hmm.
There's a trust facility fund, and also facilities fee fund. What is the difference between these two?
What page?
The blue one and the red one.
What page?
It is,
9 and 13.
it is this one.
Okay. Oh, the equipment fund and the facilities fund. The trust facilities fund.
One is facilities fee fund,
Okay.
another is trust facilities fund.
Yeah, the trust facilities fund is the fund that comes in from the unit sales.
Unit
Right.
sales.
The specifically,
5,000
yeah.
piece, yeah.
Right.
Okay, and what is then facilities fund?
And part of that is allocated to a facilities fund, which is a fund which is just to help establish to do the repairs and other elements within our reserves.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Are there any other questions? So we'll move on to the next item, and the next item is strategic planning. Director Prosa.
Thank you. I'm going to do I also have community activities comes next, so strategic
Yes.
planning will go very quickly. We did not meet last month. We have a meeting scheduled for August 23rd. We're expecting that to be an open meeting, so the public is welcome to attend. At this point, we'll probably be virtual, is my guess, based on what I heard today, but that'll be noticed so people can find out. Welcome your attendance. As far as the Community Activities Committee, we did meet last month and had a lengthy discussion about fees for the residents for the various activities. I thought it was productive. A lot of interesting ideas were shared. We decided, and it was voted unanimously, I believe, might have been one abstention, to approve the fee schedule as it existed for 2019 and 2020. So we're leaving all the fees alone except for the ones that are open for discussion that we already approved today. So really trying hard to keep things as stable as we can for residents with a long-term budget vision in mind as well. So As I said, I think the financial orientation of the committee has really improved, and we're trying to find a balance to keep costs under control, but also get enough money to provide great service. Outside of that, we continue to open the doors for information. We're talking to golf, we're talking to pickleball, talking to tennis. We're trying to get that line of communications open for any issues people have, so they feel like they're being heard. We've had an issue with the table tennis club. We're working with them. So I just feel good about the fact that there's much more active and open communication among the activities going on in the community. It's a tough time trying to get our staff up to speed, but at least everybody knows that they're being heard and responded to as best we can. I give a lot of credit to staff for that. They're going out of their way. Other than that, there really wasn't much else to talk about. We're going to start working in future meetings on ways to bring in revenues for the community without affecting our residents' pocketbooks is the goal, but also without selling out, if you want to call it that, going crazy commercially, things that are, tasteful and professional. So we'll get on that discussion, and the public's welcome to attend that. It'll take several months to at least even come up with a framework for that, but that's what we're starting next month. This month, I'm sorry, the meeting is scheduled for August 16th at 1:30. And other than that, that concludes the report.
Okay, thank you. So the next item is the Equestrian Center Ad Hoc Committee, and I'll report on that. And the committee met on July 7th, and there will be a special meeting on August 5th to review the Equestrian Center pricing policy. I just want you to know that the Ad Hoc Committee will now be meeting quarterly, and so the next regular meeting will be in November. And basically, if you should be strolling near the Equestrian Center, you will see a sign letting residents know the times of the tours. So riding lessons are now being offered, and their first event is the barbecue to be held on August 24th. And I just want to mention the reason why the Equestrian Center, the Equestrian Ad Hoc Committee is handling the pricing, for that particular asset, is because it is so different. It's a different business model compared to the other assets that we have and are being managed. So this meeting that we're having in August will be to go over all those fees, and when it comes to the board, you'll be able to see and understand, everything that goes into the pricing for the Equestrian Center. So the next item is report of landscape. Director Horton.
Well, thank you, Madam President. The last meeting was on June 9th, and so I have nothing new to report, and our next meeting is on August 11th at 1:30, and it'll be here in the boardroom, and it'll also be offered virtually. Thank you.
Maintenance and construction, that would be Egon. And then you're going to continue and also report on the clubhouses committee? Yeah.
Right.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. There was no meeting in July of the Maintenance and Construction Committee. However, we did hold a closed workshop. And what we did at that workshop is we reviewed the entire project log that has active projects on it effective the month of June. So we looked at every single one of those projects and we made some recommendations, recommendations or suggestions, which I did publish and send to the committee members. We also discussed that what we're going to do with the parking lot light. The pilot light is substandard, and we're going to work with, I think, someone to fix that problem before we decide whether or not to expand it. We've also gone and we had another walk of the driving range. This time we had a earth-moving contractor present, and Guy West was leading the tour, and we're going to hear back from him with respect to some costs, and then going to try to move forward as quickly as we can with that, because, once again, this is dragged out too long. We'll probably have to call a special meeting to approve a new cost estimate for the project as a whole. Also, the Clubhouse 1 Renovation Committee, ad hoc committee, met in July, on July 9th, and what we decided at that meeting is we decided we were not going to move forward with, let's say, calling for a study by an outside consultant to see how much usage we're getting out of the clubhouses because of cost factors and the fact that it's probably not very effective at this time because we've been shut down so long. But we did ask Brian of Recreations to come up, and he has done some of that work, to come up with an actual usage for all the clubhouses. So far, we've only gotten Clubhouse 1 in detail. We're going to get the rest of them. And then we will have some idea of how much, excess capacity we have for people who want to have meetings. We've also decided at that meeting to change the name of the group from the Clubhouse 1 Renovation Committee to the Clubhouses Renovation Committee, because we're going to look at all of the clubhouses in due time. And that's basically it for this report.
Thank you. So the Energy Solutions, as you know, this committee is going to be dissolved. Sue is the chair, was the chair, and she's now on Mutual 50 board member. And so it will be handled, the energies items will be handled through the M&C. And if in the future, if they need to do an ad hoc for any of these items, then that would be up to the chair.
Yeah,
Okay.
let me comment on that. So we've had a preliminary meeting just with SCE, and it was a over the computer meeting where they contacted us and asked us some questions about the applications that we put in for electrical vehicle chargers in the village, both in United, Third, and the GRF facilities. Okay, all we are, and at this time, is answering their questions. They are reviewing our applications, and they had some paperwork to fill out, and they informed us at that meeting that we were the first group to go through their process. So we're being considered at this time, and we'll have many more meetings on that because that is a very, very big project, or it's not a project at all. We don't know at this point. We have so little in-depth information that we certainly need to keep a close eye on this, and we'll do that through the M&C committee. Thank you.
Thank you. The next report will be Media and Communications. Joan.
Media and Communications met on July 19th of this month, and one of the first things we discussed was kindness and accurate information and where to find it. Too many people do not even look at the website, where we have two valuable sources. One is called info. You'd guess that means information. Info at lagunawoodsvillage.com. It's a site that's monitored constantly, day and night. And you can ask your question there and get an answer. A second source, which most people know here, is What's Up in the Village. This is a Friday email that comes out every Friday with valuable information, and it's accurate information. In addition, we have, of course, the bi-monthly Village Breeze, and if you didn't get a copy, it's available all over the place at Clubhouse 1 Fitness Center, Clubhouse 1 offices, the offices in Clubhouse 2, 4, and 5, the Community Center Concierge Desk. You find it floating around everywhere if you didn't get one. or you can always call 949-837-1848 and order a copy. So please don't say you didn't know about whatever it is. Another thing that, another place to check is lagunawoodsvillage.com/news. News, right? And that'll take you back to the site on what's up in the village, among other things. Of course, come to open meetings. Find out what's going on at the board meetings and at the community, at the committee meetings. Stay abreast of these things. Do not rely on social media for accurate information. Social media will give you someone's opinion and what they heard. Find out where they heard it and who's putting it out. Don't just rely on hearsay. So that was the first part of the meeting. Then you heard that we are eliminating a couple of channels and we are raising the rates on Showtime, and that's just so we can recover costs. And we also are recommending, the committee also recommended hiring the broadband group to do a report on our cable television and where we go from here, because cable television is strangely disappearing and the internet is appearing. So what happens in between? That's one of the things they're going to talk about. Anyway, we're going to talk more about the broadband group in closed session and vote as to whether we're going to hire them or not. By the way, they're already paid for, so no money lost there. You may have noticed that answers are in the Globe. Very often, if there's a letter that appears in the Globe that doesn't have accurate information, quite often staff and board members will get together and answer with accurate information. So I hope that all of the community is aware that you can get accurate information, whether you want it or not, on the internet. And it's easy, you know, just go to What's Up in the Village or go to the website and go to news. And I hope that you will make use of that. Our next meeting is Monday, August 16th at 1:30 p.m. And it's probably a virtual meeting, but we'll see.
So what Joan is mentioning, I was looking to see if you had what communications was now bringing out in the blast where it says facts, you know?
Right. Facts are fake.
Yes.
And that's the new site to check on what's up in the village.
Which I think is such a great idea. So we all support it, yes.
Ambassadors of Truth is my favorite thing that came, and I am an ambassador of truth and fact.
Okay. Okay, so the next item is report of the mobility and vehicles, and that's Director Tibbetts, and I'd like him to continue and to also report on security. So.
Okay, thank you. We had a short meeting, but very informative. And Chris gave us an update, which I've given to you before, but I'd like to review it. We have 3 bus programs, the fixed route, the village journey, and the boost program. The fixed route is the one that has the 9 buses that go in all of our neighborhoods. The usage of those buses was going up. And now with this virus resurging, we aren't quite sure, but I'll let you know at our next meeting how it affects us. The Journey program is a curb-to-curb service for people who who have medical needs. That only uses 1 shuttle bus, but it seems to be growing also. And the Boost program is our on-demand service using the Lyft bus. And the problem with that one is hard to find drivers who want to come to work for 2 hours, 7 to 9. But so far, it's still being used. COVID has affected all 3 of our programs. And as I said earlier, we were picking up riders until last week. And I'll have an update next month for you. The destination program If you remember that, we had to stop it, 18 months ago now, I guess. That's where people were being taken to certain areas they wanted to visit and enjoy it, and that was paying for itself. It was a good program. We finished our budget work, and that was sent to the main budget committee. We gave them a lot of input of what we wanted, and it should be coming to the board probably at our next meeting or awfully close to it. We get new vehicles, that creates a lot of obsolete vehicles, and we are going to use a auction company to get rid of them, and we are estimating the used vehicles will probably bring in about $100,000. And our next meeting will be October 6th at 1:30 p.m. And the next meeting was the security meeting. This meeting was also an excellent meeting. If you remember, I mentioned the fire alert program. We recommended that United and Third try these, and they did. We didn't push it. We just asked them for volunteers, and some of them volunteered, and security staff will be monitoring the program to make a recommendation. In the area of compliance, illegal occupancy is still kind of high, but it's not growing. It kind of goes up a few, then down a few. But staff is keeping an eye on that. The main problem with compliance is clutter on the patio. And they're usually boxes filled with stuff that new people have brought in, but it's still considered clutter, and we're trying to eliminate all of that. Foot patrol has increased in size, and we're getting excellent reports from the residents. They like to see the people out there. Collisions and accidents, they have gone down, way down. In the area of theft, we had one car stolen. It still hasn't been recovered. We're having a big increase in bicycle riding, and some people are riding bikes on the wrong side of the road. Someone's going to get hit on that. This morning, I passed two bicycles, one on one side of the road, one on the other, and they were having a conversation back and forth. But then they don't like to give the right of way. But some of them go pretty fast. I like to see the people out there getting exercise, but we do have bicycle rules that are not being followed by a lot of them. The largest violations in traffic, still again, going through stop signs and speeding. Staff is going to set up a bicycle registration program, and we will be sending out more information soon. And our next meeting will be August 30th at 1:30. And that's the end of the report.
Thank you. The next item would be the report on Laguna Woods Village Director traffic hearings. Director Horton.
Thank you. We had our last traffic hearing on July 21st, and we adjudicated 3 people. And the next hearings will be on the 18th at 9 a.m. The people that are breaking the law must be paying their fines, because they certainly aren't coming to traffic court. So, anyway, like I said, August 18th at 9 a.m. And it'll be a virtual it'll be a virtual meeting. Even though it says a board, it'll be in a boardroom. It isn't. And thank you.
Next is the Disaster Preparedness Task Force, and Sue's not with us, so Maggie, do you have anything to say about it?
Okay, they have a guidebook now for pets. They have all the resources and things. They have a guidebook for pets and what to do with your pets. And they have a truck with pet supplies for the disaster thing. They check the radios as usual to be sure that they are in communication. Not all of them were communicating, but most of them were. There was a good report, a good pet report. There's a sign-up sheet for pets, and we'd like everybody to be sure to sign up their pet. On the sign-up sheet, the last thing you want is for the earthquake to collapse your building and nobody knows that there were any cats in it or anything like that. You want to be sure to do that. Keep cages handy and I guess a few treats to get them into the cage, whatever you can do. But that was, it's really, the book was very well organized. They have a complete book now for that, the instructions to help people. So go online and fill out the pet report forms so that you can get your kitties registered, or doggies, of course, or birds, whatever. Okay, thank you.
All right, thank you. And the next report would be the Information Technology Advisory Committee. Director Hopkins.
Yes, thank you, President Carpenter. We had our first meeting on Friday, July 30th, and that meeting was the kickoff for the new committee. As you know, we transitioned from the Software Research Ad Hoc Committee into a fully fledged GRF committee called the ITAC, or Information Technology Advisory Committee. At that meeting, Chuck Holland presented a full scope of some of the conclusions we had at the last ad hoc committee, his analysis of some of the solutions. He also presented an entire plan of the considerations to move forward as we look at taking our old software I'll call it, say, old pieces of software that communicate throughout the village for all the operations into an entirely new, fully integrated solution. We do not have a solution, but we're looking at all the possible solutions. So the committee is an ongoing weekly meeting. It's a working committee. We expect to have some conclusions as to which direction in terms of software we're going to go somewhere in October, November, and we want to start the process of moving forward somewhere in January. It is our hope, and this is an extensive process, it's our hope and plan to have the entire transition by somewhere near mid-2023. And that concludes my report.
Thank you. Are there any items that we need to add to future agenda? We will be looking at the investment policy. That is future agenda. We won't be, yeah. Okay. So are there any other items? There are no items? Okay, so let's go around the table, around the diocese. Are there any director comments? Okay, we'll start with you, Maggie.
Okay, I'll echo Jeff. There's a Red Cross earthquake training Thursday, August 10th, and you go to the web page and it'll show you how to get there and sign on. So learn how and what to do if there's an earthquake in California. Would there be an earthquake in California? There hasn't been one for almost 3 or 6 months, so, all right, so anyway, be prepared. And it's August 10th, and look on the website, and you'll find out the information. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, and there was another hand, I think, to Joan.
Just thank you for a good meeting. It's nice to be here in person, as long as we can.
True. You never know from day to day what's going to happen here. All right, Debbie wanted to speak.
I just want to conclude that, back to the ambassador of fact and truth, is that we do encourage two-way communication. We have multiple committees, they all have chairmen or chairpersons, and you can participate in those. You can come to, well, if we're virtual, you can have your 3 minutes to speak on a non-agenda item, or 3 minutes to speak on an agenda item, or both. So please, fact, not fiction, and come directly to the source to get your answers. And it was a great meeting. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments? So if there are no more comments, we will recess to the Willow Room. And Yvonne is the one that selected our lunch today. So we are going to have Mexican food for our lunch. All right, so this meeting is recessed. Thank you.